Welcome back, High Water Trekkies.
Hi guys, Sam and
Katy
here. And quite a steamy hot July day. Just, I don't know, hoping to talk to you guys about something here.
Temperatures are high and energy is low.
Yes, and concentration maybe a bit of a struggle today, but we're going to do our very best.
And we're back with our second Trailment segment.
Yes, Trailment Part 2.
And we're going to talk about dehydration and heat illness.
Yeah, which is, I think, pretty timely right now because it is hot and humid here in the Ozarks. But I think even other places in the U.S., it's much more dire and they're facing, kind of record-breaking heat waves right now. So it's kind of the perfect time to talk about this stuff.
Oh, yeah, my family was just visiting from Texas, and I know they've really been struggling down there to survive with all the heat. I'm glad I'm not there, but they enjoyed a lot of time in our Ozark River, so I'm glad that was here for them.
Does the heat up here, faze them at all after being, down in that Texas sun?
Not too much. There was one day where we were walking around outside, and it was pretty hot and muggy, but we were also kind of hungry. So it was hot, but they were enjoying the mornings here because the mornings have been really cool. So they were sitting on the porch drinking coffee and they were just kind of in heaven.
Yeah.
Because they were saying down there, it's like as soon as they wake up, it's already hot, and it can be after dark late at night and it's still hot.
It's just like an oven all the time.
Yeah. Not much relief, so.
It has been humid though.
Yeah.
It's been quite sticky.
Moist.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll dive in. I think we're going to talk about dehydration first, maybe?
Yeah. Katy's going to tell us some about dehydration and why that's a bad thing, obviously, and probably all sorts more things about dehydration. So let's learn something here.
And my notes are not keynotes. They are fully fleshed out, so that means that I'm probably going to talk really fast and give you way too much information, but...
We like your too much information.
If you have listened before, you've probably heard me go on and on about water and dehydration, so maybe you have surmised at this point that it's a bit of a thing for me. So
it's a passion.
Maybe my entire life has been working towards this moment.
Oh, gosh.
I'm kidding.
I'm sorry.
I was pretty excited, though. But I was also afraid that I would derail and maybe lack clarity, so I tried to divide my notes into sections to keep myself a little bit on task. So we're going to talk about what causes dehydration, what's happening in our body when we are dehydrated, some steps we could take to maybe prevent it when we're going out on trail, and also things that make us more susceptible to it. And then, of course, we'll talk about symptoms, how to treat it, and then I wanted to talk at the end just a little bit about hyponatremia because they kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Well, get ready.
I'm excited. No, I probably should take notes as someone who maybe doesn't always get in enough liquids and maybe runs a little bit close to being dehydrated. I am very excited to learn some things.
Yeah, and I also did want to say we do plan on sometime in the future doing a whole episode just on hydration for you guys. Mm-hmm. So there's some things it's like I really had to hold myself back because I wanted to say more, but the lines got a little bit blurry between dehydration and hydration. Obviously you kind of have to talk about it a little bit, but I really didn't want to bleed too much into that subject because I am super excited to cover that in the future.
Really dive into hydration and
right.
Optimizing that. Me too. I'm excited for that. Also, we didn't necessarily want our episodes to be 4 hours long today.
Right. We keep trying, guys. When we very first started, we were like, oh, we'll probably be 30-minute episodes,
45.
It's hard to fathom going over that, and here we are.
I know. We get excited and have a hard time cutting the notes. So we're just going to save some for another episode, and hope you guys will come back and check out our hydration episode when that one comes out.
Yes. Well, I'm going to dive in.
Okay. Dehydration. Go.
Dehydration. So, in the simplest of terms, dehydration is what happens when our body loses more fluid than it takes in. This shortage of water content in our body upsets the balance of minerals or salts and sugars, which you'll also hear called electrolytes, and that negatively impacts our body's ability to carry out normal functions. There's actually 3 kinds of dehydration, which I hadn't heard before, but there's hypotonic, which is a lack of electrolytes, there's hypertonic, which is a lack of water, and there's isotonic, which is a lack of both.
Wow.
So that was a new fun fact for me.
Interesting.
And I did see it said, like, most of the time when you're treating somebody for dehydration, especially like an athlete, that they're probably going to have isotonic, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then, like we did with the infection episode, I did kind of want to talk a little bit about what's going on inside our body when we are dehydrated. So when we think of body functions that dehydration has an impact on, I feel like most of us probably tend to think mainly of like our urinary and our kidney function, but it's way more widespread than that. So depending on which resource you read, somewhere between 65 and 80% of our body is composed of water. I feel like I saw a different number in every source that I read, but somewhere in there. And nearly every body function that we have is dependent on water. So dehydration can impair our cognitive function, our energy levels, our heart health, skin health, digestive function, our body temperature regulation, our urinary and kidney function, of course, our muscles and joints, our respiratory system, and our immune system. So pretty much everything. To touch on each of those just a little bit, I tried to keep this brief, but I did want to go through each of those systems and throw a few things out there for you. So when it comes to our cognitive function, dehydration can cause brain fog, which I feel like most of us are going to be pretty familiar with. I feel like this is one of my body's first signs to me that I need to hydrate. So most of us who move our bodies outside are probably pretty familiar with that one. But it also causes fatigue, sleep issues, difficulty focusing, and even depression, I saw. Studies show that even mild dehydration, as low as only 1%, can cause a 5% decrease in cognitive function. A 2% decrease in brain hydration can result in short-term memory loss and trouble with math computations.
Wow.
So if you're trying to do math on trail, don't get dehydrated. And then I wanted to say just a tad bit more on brain hydration specifically. Our brains are made up of around 73 to 85% water. Again, the number varies through different sources. But water gives our brains the energy that they need to function, to process thoughts and memories, to produce hormones and neurotransmitters. Water is essential to our brains, but because our brain can't store it, adequate and continuous hydration is really important for us. So prolonged dehydration can cause our brain cells to shrink in both size and mass, and it's a condition that you'll commonly see in elderly folks who have maybe spent years chronically dehydrated. Mm. So energy levels, most of us, again, are probably pretty familiar with the fatigue and the loss of energy that dehydration can cause. We did briefly touch in our food episode about how dehydration can affect performance and hiking time. So as little as 2% dehydration level can greatly decrease your hiking time and your performance. Again, I didn't want to go too much into that because we're going to talk about that in hydration. When we're dehydrated, our blood becomes thicker and our blood flow is restricted. So in an effort to prevent further water loss from our cells, our body's blood pressure and blood cholesterol both rise, and over time these both put us at increased risk of heart disease. One source stated that it can actually make our blood pressure drop to dangerously low levels, and then our body will overcorrect and make it rise to dangerously high levels. It also puts us at increased risk of heart palpitations and a rapid heartbeat. When it comes to our skin, the discrepancy between sources was like really huge here. One source said that our skin is comprised of 20% water, and another said 64%. Do with that what you will. I didn't want to take too much time to dig into that, but either way, our skin contains a lot of water, and so when we're dehydrated, it affects the collagen in our skin, which can cause it to weaken and be more prone to wrinkling and premature aging. These are not exactly life-threatening side effects, but if you are interested in keeping a little fresh baby face, I suppose it's relevant.
Good luck.
Yeah. Let us know how that goes.
Yeah.
Dehydration affects our digestion in many ways. I really want to dig more into this because it's fascinating, and I found some really good resources. but it can actually affect our saliva production, which we need just to eat in general. It slows our metabolism and makes it more difficult for our bodies to appropriately eliminate toxins. So this could lead to some issues like constipation, but it can also lead to more toxins being stored in our fat cells, which then leads to our cells refusing to release any fat until the body has been hydrated and is able to flush the toxins. So all of that means that dehydration, at least, or especially chronic dehydration, could actually lead to increased body weight.
Wow.
Which I did not know.
I had no idea.
I thought that was interesting.
It is.
When it comes to regulating our temperature, sweating is our body's go-to mechanism. The act of sweating releases water in tiny amounts of potassium, sugars, and sodium through our pores. So the sweat evaporating off of our skin is what actually cools our bodies, but it relies on adequate hydration to work to its full ability. So when we're exerting ourselves, especially in a heated outdoor environment, our body temperatures will rise beyond what our brain is comfortable with. So then our hypothalamus, which is the part of our brain responsible for temperature control, will react by sending our body the signal to sweat even more, which means losing more water and more minerals. So if we're dehydrated, this typically super efficient cooling system just cannot keep up, and that's when we are put at increased risk of heat stroke or heat exhaustion. It causes urinary tract infections. Our urine will become highly concentrated, which can lead to urinary incontinence, but it can also irritate the lining of the bladder, which results in this really painful condition called interstitial cystitis. I read just a little bit about that, and it sounded absolutely miserable. It can also lead to us having decreased urinary production, which is what can lead to kidney stones. And it can, of course, wreak havoc on our kidney function. As we talked about with the digestive system, dehydration has a negative effect on our ability to filter and flush out waste products. Our kidneys specifically help us to flush metabolic waste from our blood and our urine. So when we're dehydrated, less water is used to flush that waste because our kidneys are trying to hold on to as much water as they possibly can. So again, our urine becomes more concentrated and it leads to all kinds of issues. Dehydration also affects our muscles and joints. It affects our muscles by delaying muscle recovery, impairing muscular performance. It can increase our pain levels, decrease our strength, and cause muscle spasms and cramping, which are uncomfortable in and of themselves, but they can also lead to increased joint pain. And then when it comes to our joints, our synovial fluid is what provides cushioning for our joints and keeps bone from grinding against bone. But when we're dehydrated, this fluid becomes thinner and less protective, which increases the friction and the resulting pain that we can feel in our joints. Cartilage, according to one source, is made up of 70 to 80% water. So insufficient water can lead to cartilage damage, which means more joint pain. Cartilage is also responsible for shock absorption during high-impact activities, so joint pain. Chronic dehydration causes a loss of blood volume, which can cause a lot of issues, but among them is the degeneration and overall functional decline of our joints. So water is incredibly important for our joints, and being dehydrated is really bad for joints. I thought it's good to know for everybody, but especially if you're someone who does specifically have issues with your joints.
Yeah. Which doesn't everyone as they get older?
I think so.
I think it's almost inevitable. But it makes perfect sense, but I never thought of it that way or considered that dehydration would be such a trigger for that.
I know. And it is, I just love knowing the why. What exactly is happening.
Right.
I think it's super interesting, and I hope that you guys think so too. Because here we are.
Yeah.
So water also helps deliver oxygen all throughout our body, and a huge percentage of water, 83% according to one source, makes up our lungs. When our body loses water, our respiratory rate will increase, and our lung volume can actually be altered. So this could include reduction in our forced vital capacity, which is the volume of air that we can forcibly exhale from our lungs. And it can also increase our residual volume and residual capacity, which are respectively the volume of air that stays in our lungs after a maximum exhale and the air left in our lungs after just a normal passive exhale. So it can alter all of those. It can also thicken our mucus and make it more sticky, which can slow down our overall respiration and make us more prone to illness, allergies, or other respiratory issues. It can also lead to bronchoconstriction, which can make our breathing more labored. And then overall, dehydration can just weaken our immune system in general, making us more susceptible to infection and illness. And I feel like this makes a lot of sense considering all of the body systems that we just worked through and how affected they are by dehydration.
This is like every system of the body.
Like all of it.
Yeah, every bit of it. Okay.
And then I did try to find, I was curious, for the context of backpacking, I was very curious about like what duration of dehydration is considered chronic. And so I tried to look it up. I didn't necessarily find a solid answer. A lot of sources consider a chronic illness to be something that lasts 3 months or longer with the potential to get worse. But when you looked into dehydration specifically, all it said was that it's dehydration that lasts for a longer period of time. And they didn't really define the period of time. But I do feel like with both of those definitions in mind, that it's definitely possible for a thru hiker or a long section hiker to become chronically dehydrated during their trip.
On trail.
So that was kind of interesting. I just thought that was kind of important for us to think about because we may be thinking of chronic dehydration as like a years-long thing.
Right.
And of course it can be, but we can become chronically dehydrated in a much shorter period of time than that. Oh, okay. So with that in mind, let's talk about prevention and susceptibility. As with many other things, I feel like prevention is always better than having to treat the thing once it's already happened. So to understand how to prevent dehydration, it helps to figure out how much water we actually need and what makes us more susceptible to dehydration in the first place. So we are more susceptible to becoming dehydrated when we're exercising or exerting ourselves at higher intensity for prolonged periods of time, and especially in hot weather or higher humidity. Humidity makes it more difficult for our sweat to evaporate, and as we just talked about, the cooling effect is in the evaporation. Right. But when it's humid and there's all this extra moisture in the air, the sweat just drips. We're also more susceptible when we have certain medical conditions, which could include things like diabetes, kidney diseases, bladder infections, and so on. We're more susceptible if we are or have been sick with a fever, vomiting, or diarrhea, if we've been urinating more frequently for whatever reason, if we have skin injuries. This one I found super interesting, but if we have injuries on our skin like a severe cut or burn, or I saw one source even say sunburn, we'll actually lose water through our damaged skin, so it can end up contributing to dehydration. Which that one blew my mind, to be honest.
That's crazy.
I was like, what?
It makes sense though after like some sunburns I've had, thinking back about them.
Totally. Oh gosh, I hate sunburn. So we're also more susceptible if we're pregnant or breastfeeding, if we're trying to lose weight, if we are much older adults, or if we've been consuming a lot of diuretics or alcohol. So when it comes to answering the question of how much water do we need, there's really no easy answer. A lot of what we've heard over the years it's not necessarily harmful, but it doesn't have any basis in science. In the basest of terms, we need as much water as we lose through sweat and urination. And again, we're going to cover hydration, so I don't want to bleed too much into that, but I did want to talk on just a few little key points. So one of the most important ones is just that hydration needs are completely unique to the individual. There's so many factors that contribute to how much water you need and how much minerals you need. So for example, you could take a man and a woman of similar age, match fitness level, pretty much equal across the board, and their hydration needs would be completely different. Really? Because women thermoregulate differently than men. Okay. We actually sweat differently than men. We shimmer. And so our hydration needs are different. But you could also take two women that are evenly matched, and their hydration needs would still be different depending on which hormonal phase of their menstrual cycle they're on. So there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. There are some methods that can help you determine your hydration needs. None of them are foolproof in and of themselves. It seems like the best option may be kind of a combination of a few things. So you could use your weight. I saw it suggested that you could regularly weigh yourself in the morning to get a good general idea of how much fluid you're losing. Mm-hmm. You could also do the weighing before versus after a workout, which I think we talked about a little bit before, but basically you weigh yourself before a workout and then after. 2.2 pounds is 1 liter of fluid, so you could kind of scale that as needed to get an idea of how much fluid you're losing through sweat when you're very active. Thirst is a good indicator to be combined with all of these. That one's pretty self-explanatory. And then our urine, the color of our urine is going to give us information. We want pale urine, but not clear urine. The frequency also gives us information. So if we're barely peeing, we're not hydrated enough. If we're peeing constantly, we're not actually absorbing our fluids appropriately. And then you can also test your urine-specific gravity. I felt like this was the one that will give you a really solid idea of where your hydration is at, but not ideal on trail.
Right. Yeah.
So jumping off of the peeing too frequently thing, another thing I wanted to point out is that absorbing fluid optimally is way more important than just chugging a huge quantity of water. So it's not about just drinking a ton of water, it's about adding back those minerals that help us to actually absorb it and that we're losing, especially when we're sweating a lot. Electrolytes don't have to be complicated. If you're someone who's going to fret over all those choices, sodium seems to be the most important thing to add back in general. When we're active, we need sodium, glucose, and potassium. Again, more on this in hydration, so come back, guys.
Yeah.
It's also best to sip your water over time versus gulping large amounts. And this is why I am a big fan of hiking with a bladder and a hydration tube. I know a lot of backpackers hate it, but I hate wrenching my arm around to reach for my water bottle. And if you're trying to do this, recommended of sipping kind of continuously versus cameling up or chugging, then yeah, I'm a big fan of bladders and tubes.
I read an interesting article one time that was talking about how if you do chug your water instead of sipping on it, which is ideal, it's not very good for your systems. It can kind of overload your circulatory system and give it too much of a job too fast, and especially when it's just being wasted anyway. But it can kind of be hard on your heart to just chug water constantly and change that level in your body like so quickly instead of kind of a slower...
Like shocking it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting.
That makes sense.
Take it as someone who has been known to chug some water. It's made me feel a little differently about my habit.
Same. I was going to say, I am notorious for just chugging. And so I'm really making an effort to get better, but it's hard. Old habits die hard.
It's to get our water bladders out. I don't have mine cleaned out right now, and I need to just hang it up in the house or something. Yeah. You had yours in your car for a long time, all strapped up, ready to go. So
that actually worked really well.
It was cute.
Maybe weird, but oh gosh.
It was cute.
I can't wait for our hydration discussion, honestly. It's going to be so fun.
Katie had her water bladder like on the back of her vehicle seat with like her tube like ready to come to the front. Like it was awesome. It's very inspiring.
Perfect for long road trips.
Yes. That might have been in the Jeep the last time I saw you with that. And I'm not sure you had air, so maybe that was part of it too.
Oh yeah, probably. I did not have air in the Jeep.
Okay.
So yeah, when it comes to how much water do you need, I can't answer this question for you. The best I can do is tell you that for me personally, as a female in my mid-30s, maybe moderate fitness level with no underlying medical conditions.
Moderate. Don't be humble, Katie.
That's how I feel.
She a badass. Anyway.
I need about a liter for every 2 to 3 hours. I usually try to have 3 or 4 liters of water available throughout a whole long day of hiking. One of those liters probably had electrolytes in them. I can't say this is the right amount. It seems to be a good amount for me. I would say the minimum that I drink on trail to actually feel good is 3 liters in a day. I have drank less, I have drank more, but that seems to be like what I need to not just tank.
Same. I think that sounds about right. That's usually what I plan for.
And then at home, when I'm not exerting that much energy, it's probably more like 2 liters, maybe 2.5 liters a day is what I try to do and what feels pretty good. So there you go. And then I just wanted to say, for hikers and backpackers and, runners, athletes in general, we are going to be more susceptible to dehydration just due to the nature of the activity itself. I did look into it. It's really hard to pinpoint how many hikers or backpackers actually suffer from dehydration on trail or have to be evacuated. But I did see it said that almost every search and rescue operation for something else, whether it be heat illness or hypothermia, has dehydration as an underlying factor. So it is common. And then we did just go over all of those factors that make people more susceptible to dehydration, but the truth is that everybody is potentially at risk. I think we've all probably seen the stories of people dying from dehydration that are teenagers, young adults, good fitness level. A lot of times it's in very highly trafficked touristy areas. It's not like they were in an emergency situation in the backcountry. So I did want to make the point that it's almost always an issue of being underprepared, which is why we're going to talk about prevention. Proper prior planning, our favorite thing on this podcast.
Yes, the triple P.
So some triple P. We should make a sticker.
We should.
So some tips that I saw were that you could just try to plan your hikes during cooler weather, more like cloudy weather, or along trails that provide shade. This one should be a no-brainer, but bring adequate water. Err on the side of more than you think you'll need. Again, maybe do some experimenting at home with those methods that we talk about to really kind of solidify what personal hydration needs look like for you. I think doing that before you even get on trail could be beneficial. On longer trips, just know your water availability and plan accordingly. Again, sip your water frequently throughout the entire day versus chugging or cameling up. Don't forget that dehydration can occur in any weather conditions. Patients who are treated for cold-related illnesses like hypothermia almost always present with dehydration as well. Wow. I read. So I think it's easy to forget when we're not actually hot and sweating, but it's just as important. You can also allow yourself time to acclimatize to new areas or just to hotter seasons. And then have a plan to replace your minerals, especially if you're drinking larger amounts of water or sweating bullets. Again, you could do electrolyte powders. You could also do just some salt with a little bit of sweet. We'll talk about that in a second. You can use nutrition as another way to boost your hydration and fluid absorption. Lots of foods have the minerals that our bodies are using and losing. So you could eat lots of watery, very nutrient-rich foods before your hike. You can bring something to wipe your sweat away, which will enhance the cooling effects of sweating. And then rest. Just allow yourself time to rest. Be okay with rest. Letting your body cool down when you need to.
Being okay with rest.
Easier said than done, right? Yes. All right, guys. Let's talk about symptoms. Prepare to be terrified. Okay. But also, because we just talked about what is happening in our body when we're dehydrated, I actually feel like these are all going to make a lot of sense to us. Before I jump straight into the individual symptoms, I did kind of want to just summarize the whole cycle that our bodies go through if dehydration is not corrected. So our initial response is to increase water intake. Our urine output will decrease as our body tries to conserve fluid. Our body's going to increase our heart rate to try and maintain our cardiac output. Our blood vessels are going to constrict in hopes of maintaining blood pressure and keeping the blood flowing to vital organs. Our blood will be routed away from our skin to our brain, lungs, heart, intestines, and kidneys to try and make up for the loss of fluid. This is why a lot of times when we're dehydrated, our skin will actually feel cold and clammy. And then if by this point we have not taken steps to rehydrate ourselves, our brain will lack the blood flow that it requires to keep functioning. So we become confused and weak, our blood pressure falls, which may make our kidneys fail. Finally, we will go into organ failure, coma, and death.
Boo.
So, yikes.
Yikes.
But again, I'm not trying to terrify you. Honestly, keep in mind that is the entire cycle if dehydration is just never addressed at all and allowed to just take you out. So that we're not talking about you skip a liter and you're gonna...
Yeah.
I know that sounded terrifying.
A lot of people really don't drink water, though.
I know, and I don't know how they don't feel like shit just all the time.
Yeah. It seems strange, maybe, but a lot of people probably are very dehydrated all the time walking around.
I didn't look it up, but I wonder, like, what the percentage of the population is that's just walking around chronically dehydrated.
I don't know, but I bet it's a lot.
I bet it is, too.
I'm going to try not to be part of that percentage, but I'll be honest, I've had my days.
Just drink water. You know, what baffles me is when you encounter that person that's like, I don't like water. It's like, how can you not like water?
Do you hate 84% of yourself?
Right? Do you hate life?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
It is.
No offense to anyone out there that hates water, but you should probably try to start loving it.
It's the life force, guys.
Okay, so symptoms. At a 2% fluid deficit, we're already going to be noticing a lot of symptoms. The first two we're probably going to notice are thirst and headache. And side note, when we feel thirsty, we're often already 1 to 2% dehydrated.
I've heard that before.
It's crazy, because I feel thirsty all the time. And again, we'll talk more about that in hydration, but that's why a combination of factors is best for determining hydration, because people do have different thirst levels,
right.
too.
And I find that the more I drink, the thirstier I am.
Yes.
In a good way.
Right. It's like your body's acclimating to it.
I guess, if you know that you've hydrated well, but you're still thirsty, you're probably all right.
Yeah.
Then
you can look at your pee. We are already going to notice some cognitive deficits. One source said decreased group cooperation, which I found very specific and hilarious. Also, just things like feeling impatient. We'll notice fatigue, lack of energy, lack of appetite, and side note, efficiency is already decreased by 25% at this point.
Wow.
So if we're as little as 1 to 2% dehydrated, our efficiency on trail is already going to be, like, I don't know, 25% makes me feel like I'm just going to be stumbling all over the place.
That is significant.
It is. Our skin may feel flushed and dry. It may also feel clammy and cool. We may just kind of feel generally uncomfortable. And then again, our urine color and frequency are going to start showing symptoms. We may see dark concentrated urine. This is a sign we're already moderately dehydrated and our kidney function is beginning to be affected. If we haven't peed all day, we're probably dehydrated. So as we progress, we're going to notice more and more signs of our other body systems being affected. Some of these symptoms we already have may increase. At a 12% fluid deficit, we may see things like dizziness, fatigue, brain fog, irritability, confusion, just increasing issues with our neurological function. We're going to have headaches probably increasing in intensity, muscle cramps or tingling in our limbs, pain, weakness. We may have rapid breathing or a really rapid heartbeat or heart palpitations, extremely dry skin. And I wanted to say as a side note, in veterinary science, a lot of times you'll see vets test for hydration by tinting the skin, and we can do this to ourselves too, but it's basically where you pinch the loose skin and kind of pull it up in a tint shape. It should bounce right back if you're hydrated, and if you don't, it just kind of like hangs out there, which looks really weird, but easy way to test. Our eyes will become sunken in, so I feel like I'm picturing that we're just straight up desiccating at this point. I love that word. I had to throw it in there.
I'm glad you did.
We'll also notice the absence of salivation, a swollen tongue, inability to swallow, and slurred speech. And then a fluid deficit of greater than 15% is usually fatal. So 15% sounds like a small number. Like it's crazy to me that that's all it takes. But we're a lot of water.
We're a lot of water.
We're a lot of water, folks. So those are the symptoms. I will say when it comes to dehydration, I feel like we do get a fair amount of mild symptoms before we escalate into the danger zone. Mm-hmm. So just pay attention, guys.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It does make me think and understand how, especially older folks that may be somewhat bedridden and whatnot, can easily become dehydrated, though, and maybe not notice it because a lot of the symptoms are similar to a lot of other things. They're just aging,
right?
Even, and I read that their body's ability to regulate, we lose it a bit as we age, so it makes sense for older folks, It
does.
But
more susceptible for sure.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons.
Well, building off of that, we will talk about treatment But as Sam just mentioned, dehydration is often overlooked because the symptoms mimic so many other issues that we might encounter on trail. And so I think as a rule of thumb, it's kind of one of those situations where you should maybe always assume you're going to become dehydrated or that it could be an issue. Because again, it's almost always an underlying issue that does present even when people are being treated for other things. So I think just keeping that in mind is helpful for us. When it comes to treatment, for mild dehydration, we just want to drink water. I saw that if you can access cooler water, it's better than warm, but we are on trail, so our water's probably warm. Again, sip it, even though you're trying to treat dehydration here and you're probably very thirsty. Just chugging a bunch of water all at once, like Sam said, it overloads your system. It's going to run right through you. You're just going to have to pee a lot, and then you're going to lose even more water and more minerals. You can also sip on an oral rehydration solution, which you can make yourself, or electrolytes. At this point, you do want to stay away from any sports drinks or electrolyte mixes that contain higher amounts of sugar, because that can actually increase the amount of time that it takes for you to absorb the fluid.
Interesting.
You want to rest in a cool, shaded area to reduce sweating and lower your body temperature. And then you could also eat some salty snacks, again, to just add some salt back into your body. For severe dehydration, you're going to have to evacuate because you need to seek medical attention.
Yeah.
So to make your own oral rehydration solution, you basically just need water, salt, and sugar. Or I saw one person say maple syrup. I personally have never carried that on trail, but they probably make it in single-serve packets, so it's possible.
Yum.
And then the ratio is half a teaspoon of salt to about 6 teaspoons of your sweetener in a liter of water. So again, I kind of feel like salt packets are going to become an essential part of my gear.
I know.
I think there is actually about a half a teaspoon in a packet, so that's really easy. I've never carried sugar on trail, but I could. I also got some of those little honey straws recently because I thought they would be good for tea and stuff, so I could carry those.
That's a great idea, those little things.
Yeah. I'm excited. I haven't got to use them yet. I ordered them, but so I'm ready.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's simple enough. Like I said, electrolytes don't have to be complicated, and I'm not knocking electrolytes. I don't want to say too much about this because we are going to talk about it. It's just that you should maybe do your research on what you're using. Some of them have way more sodium than you actually need. Some of them have way too much sugar. Some of them just have stuff that's not necessary. It's really just not necessary.
Right.
I think I saw one person's argument for maybe avoiding some of the ones that just have way too much stuff in them is that when we're working hard, and especially if we are already a little bit dehydrated, our digestive system is kind of under stress, and so a lot of that extra shit is just putting more stress on it.
That makes
sense.
It's
kind of similar to what you were saying about like overtaxing your heart when you chug too much water. So I'm not knocking electrolytes again. I'm just presenting alternatives and letting you know it doesn't need to be expensive or complicated, because that is another factor. I don't know about you, but the last time I went to order electrolytes, I was like, what on earth?
Yeah.
So if all you need is salt and sugar, and like maybe some potassium.
Right. Which for me, I like to find something I enjoy as well. But
me too.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah. Or expensive.
Right. Can I ask,
I'm gonna try maple syrup.
I like to take like the coconut and a little bit of salt. How do you feel like that stands up?
I have heard mixed information about coconut water in general. I don't know about like the particular electrolytes that we've used. I think adding in the extra salt is probably helpful. I don't think it's bad, but I did come across information that was saying it maybe doesn't hydrate us as well as we think it does. And I actually saw some interesting history about like where that originated.
Really?
And I don't necessarily want to get into it today. Like, I'd rather save it, but I feel like it's maybe not. It's kind of one of those things that became hyped up a little bit. Just coconut water in general, as far as if we're looking at what's optimally hydrating us. So
I'm probably not going to quit.
Me either.
Because I really enjoy it. And I do add salt, and I feel like I notice difference when I use it. I feel like it works for me, but it may not be ideal.
And again, it's better for nothing, like better than nothing. So whenever I present this information, it's not to be like, you need to drop whatever you're doing and go do what this person says, you know, but it is interesting to see like what's fact and what's fiction, kind of.
Right.
But yeah.
Looking forward to that conversation some other time.
I'm also not going to stop with those electrolytes if they ever get them back in stock, because they are delicious.
They're so good, and they just make me feel good.
So I wanted to wrap up by talking just a little bit about hyponatremia. I meant to look up the pronunciation and make sure that I was not just being a dumbass and guessing how this is pronounced, but I didn't. So I'm going to call it hyponatremia. Correct me if I am wrong.
I think that sounds right.
But this is what happens when the levels of sodium in our blood become too low. So when we have a serum sodium level of less than 135 milliequivalents per liter, we are hyponatremic. And if it drops below 125 milliequivalents per liter, that's severe hyponatremia. And this is something that is really common among athletes, also military, especially during training, and especially if the training is outside during hot weather. This condition can stem from underlying illnesses or medications, but in the context of athletics, backpacking, hydration, what we're talking about today, we're focusing more about how it results from drinking too much water without adding back our salt or our electrolytes. So when we drink a huge quantity of water, especially when we're chugging it like we've been talking about, we're essentially flushing all of these essential minerals from our system by overloading it with more water than we need or even able to process. I think it's come up on one of our episodes before, but I will repeat that the average adult's kidneys can only process about a liter of water per hour. So there's a broad range of symptoms for this one, ranging from mild to severe, and they can be tricky because, again, it mimics symptoms of so many other things like heat illness. And actually, it is very often misdiagnosed as heat illness because the conditions that cause the person to consume so much water in the first place usually involve like a hot environment where heat illness was already a concern for them and they were trying to avoid it. So you might see headaches, decreased cognitive function, confusion, decreased ability to think, and so on. You might have nausea, poor balance, and then eventually seizures and coma. So hyponatremia is very easy to miss, but it can also have really far-reaching complications or become life-threatening if it is not identified and treated quickly.
Sounds scary.
So the reason I just wanted to touch on that is I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with dehydration, because a lot of people may kind of make this mistake when they're trying to avoid dehydration. So again, we don't just need huge quantities of water, we gotta have those minerals. And we gotta just hydrate continuously versus overloading our body all at once.
Yeah.
And that's about all I had. At the very end, I just had the age-old question of how long can we survive without water? And it still is 3 to 4 days. That answer hasn't changed. Of course, depending on environmental factors, those personal susceptibility factors. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot more I could have said. I took some things out of my notes because, yeah, we're going to talk about hydration and the lines were a little blurred and I didn't want to give too much away.
Yes, and I think we'll probably talk about a lot of these things again. Maybe not have a whole episode, but this is just something that is always going to need attention, and we're always learning about it and what works best for us, and it's, I don't know, part of the process.
Yeah, and I don't know. I always feel like having a good understanding of what your body needs and how it's working can help you maybe even place a higher value on it than you would if you just didn't know, because it's like you can hear that we need to drink water or that you need electrolytes. But when you go through all of your body systems and see like how they're being affected, and that's the other thing I wanted to point out is, again, I think that a thru hiker or a lasher could definitely become chronically dehydrated during their trip. And the thing is that chronic dehydration, like the symptoms of that are far reaching, like they can affect you for the rest of your life. So I think it's important for us to not think of dehydration in terms as like a momentary issue that we might run into on trail, but something that we could potentially deal with months after getting off trail.
That's a really great point.
So,
and not to mention, I hope you guys do well about doing this, but I think sometimes some of us can get in a hurry to get on trail. It's like rush, and then be a little behind on our water intake before we ever even get on trail.
Yeah.
That's not a good spot to be in.
It's not. I saw a lot of information. Like when you come across people that are talking about hydration specifically for athletes, there may be variances in some of their information, but almost all of them are going to talk about how important the prep is.
Yeah.
Like before the race or before the,
Not just like the night before either.
Yeah.
You know. Did you learn anything that maybe will change how you operate on trail now?
Maybe. I mean, I feel like I've already taken hydration super seriously.
Yes.
I think I may carry some of these things to make my own oral rehydration solution. I did come across some really good information about post. It was more about like marathon runners post hydration and what to do after the activity. So I thought that was interesting and maybe some things that I might implement because I'm still kind of trying to work on the taking care of my body when the day's over thing, because a lot of times you're so tired and you don't feel like doing anything. But just like with, preparing ahead of time, hydrating in a certain way after the activity is important too, because our bodies aren't going to be processing things the same way they are when they're like in action.
Right.
So I don't know.
Maybe we can talk about some of this more. And I think what's going to be our next episode, I hope so, on hydration. You guys have to come back and check it out.
I'm so excited.
Okay, well, now that Katy's kind of given us the lowdown on dehydration and how terrible it is for our bodies, let's talk about some other conditions that tend to occur when the temperature is on the rise and often go hand in hand with dehydration. And that is some varieties of heat illnesses. Heat illness means a serious medical condition that results from the body's inability to cope with a particular heat load. And that includes heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat syncope, and heat stroke. And you could almost think of these different conditions as phases that can run into one another. So sometimes these are all part of one issue, and then sometimes you may just have one of these things, but you don't want it to evolve into something worse. So I just quickly wanted to touch on, and Katy kind of talked about this, but how and why our bodies keep us at a regulated temperature. Human beings need to maintain their internal body temperature within a pretty narrow range. Of course, as we know, above or below 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. People suffer from heat illness when their bodies are not able to get rid of that excess heat and properly cool. The body kind of loses its heat balance because it cannot shed heat at a fast enough rate. So our central nervous system is constantly working hard to coordinate control over our body's temp. And that's just to prevent us from harming ourselves. So we have temperature sensors in our skin and internal organs, and they are called thermoreceptors. These thermoreceptors are specially tuned to different temperature ranges and send signals to our brain's cortex, which allow us to perceive the heat and respond to it, such as getting out of the sun and heading indoors when we're feeling too hot. If that's an option, not an option when you're on trail.
True.
We also have an internal thermostat located in our brain's hypothalamus, which Katy kind of talked about. It's called the preoptic area of the brain. This area senses our core body temperature, and it can activate our autonomic systems to begin cooling the body when it reaches a certain temp, such as through sweating and dilating our blood vessels. So the primary way we do cool ourselves is through sweating through our sweat glands. And as Katy was talking about, as sweat evaporates, it cools our skin. It's simple as that. The number that I found was that this evaporative cooling accounts for about 80% of our cooling capacity during exercise.
Wow.
But, it's kind of a double-edged thing that excessive sweating can also lead to dehydration. So, our brain's kind of internal thermostat, it also activates the sympathetic nervous system, which causes blood vessels in our skin to dilate. Our heart more than doubles its output to meet the increased demand. and pumps warm blood from our body's core to the surface, where it should cool off if the outside air isn't hotter, which is where you can get into some trouble in this hot air and hot weather. So going on from there, I will talk to you guys a little bit about the different types of heat illnesses. And again, this is it can kind of be thought of as phases because they often precede each other. So the first type of heat illness and the mildest form is called heat cramps, and it just consists of painful muscle cramps and spasms that occur during or after intense exercise and sweating in high heat. And that's really all the symptoms are, is painful cramps, especially in the legs and sometimes the abdomen, and flushed, moist, sweaty skin.
Oof.
So if you are dealing with heat cramps, you will want to move to a cool place to rest. Please stop doing the activity of whatever you're doing. Remove excess clothing, and you can place cool cloths on skin, fan skin. And again, you're going to want to probably hydrate specifically with some electrolytes so that you can help your muscles find that balance and not be cramping up on you.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Have you ever had heat cramps before?
I don't know if I was just trying to think about that. It sounds so uncomfortable. I've had like uncomfortable sensations in my legs that maybe felt like milder than cramps, but
maybe
I don't know
what you had going on a little bit. It's also recommended that you stretch the cramp muscles. I've never really had a problem with this, but apparently a lot of people do.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I feel like if I'm having any of this, I'm just going to skip on to the heat exhaustion, which is next. So a more severe form of heat illness is something we've probably heard of called heat exhaustion. This results, again, from a loss of water and salt in the body. It occurs in conditions of extreme heat and excessive sweating without adequate fluid and salt replacement. So heat exhaustion occurs when the body is unable to cool itself properly, and if left untreated, can go ahead and progress to heat stroke, which is the really scary stage of heat illness, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So heat exhaustion, kind of like Katy was talking about with dehydration, it's most likely to affect the elderly, people with high blood pressure, pregnant women, breastfeeding, children, and of course those working or playing in hot environments. So the symptoms of heat exhaustion usually include muscle cramps, pale but moist, sweaty skin. You're still sweating. You usually will have a fever over 100.4 degrees. You might have digestive issues such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, likely to have headaches, fatigue, weakness, strong feelings of anxiety, feeling faint, feeling thirsty, and also just a decrease in your urine output.
Man, that's crazy how similar all of those are to dehydration symptoms.
Right, which I guess when you think about it, I mean, heat exhaustion, part of it is being dehydrated, right? Along with the high heat, but you don't have to have the high heat to be dehydrated. So it's kind of interesting. So how you might want to treat what you might be perceiving as heat exhaustion, especially if you're out on the trail, it's again to try to find a cool place to rest. Not always easy to do.
Yeah.
Remove excess clothing again. Place cool, wet cloths on skin. Fan the skin. You can give electrolyte beverages or some, like Katy said, something that contains that salt and sugar. And if there is no improvement to be seen, or if you or the person is unable to take fluids, they're going to need to go to the ER. IV fluids are probably necessary in that case.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue, especially if you had those symptoms of like the vomiting and stuff like that. You might not be able to keep the fluids down.
I know, that would be terrible.
Ugh.
It'd be so hot and thirsty, but yet can't drink anything.
Just be like puking and crying. Probably.
Terrible.
I would.
I know.
It's interesting the anxiety as a symptom too.
I know, but it was for dehydration too, right?
Oh,
maybe
probably was.
Sometimes, maybe not.
They said poor group cooperation or like impatience, irritability. So like, I guess, yeah, you probably
it's
be
kind of
anxious
all
too.
in the same kind of category, I feel like.
Cognitive decline.
Your mood goes to shit.
I don't feel good.
So if all of that isn't sounding scary enough...
Oh boy.
Heat exhaustion, if not treated, can move on to the next terrible phase of heat stroke, which is also known as hyperthermia. Not hypothermia, hyperthermia, which I've never heard it called that before. Makes sense, but... So after doing this research on heat stroke, I'm pretty terrified.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. But a lot of it really kind of reflects what you were talking about with dehydration. So anyway, I'll jump in and tell you guys a little bit about it. So heat stroke, hyperthermia, is the most severe form of heat illness. This occurs when the body's heat regulating system is completely overwhelmed by excessive heat. Heat stroke is most likely to occur in hot and humid weather. When the air is full of water and humid, your sweat isn't going to evaporate off your body as easily or as quickly. So your body can no longer control its temperature, which in the case of heat stroke will rise rapidly. So the body's sweating mechanism fails and you are unable to cool down. This is a life-threatening emergency and requires immediate medical attention. Heat stroke can cause permanent disability or death. So your body temp rises to 106 or higher, sometimes in as little as 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Scary.
Ooh.
So this is going to immediately result in neurological changes such as confusion and disorientation. At such high temperatures, proteins and the membranes found around cells in the body, especially the brain, begin to malfunction or to be destroyed. I thought it was interesting that you touched on how the gut during dehydration kind of refuses to release the toxins. And then if you get to this point in heat stroke, all your cells are going haywire and actually your gut becomes incredibly permeable. So a mass amount of toxins can be released in your body when you're going through a heat stroke, which is also terrifying.
Right.
Your body like poisons itself on top of everything. Like,
Just panics and releases toxins.
yeah, I've been storing this toxin up for the perfect time.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of interesting though.
That is interesting.
So this extreme heat, I mean, it's going to affect all of your internal organs, causing a breakdown of heat muscle cells and blood vessels, and it's just going to lead to damage over your entire body. Especially the kidneys take a hard hit again, and our brains, and it can even alter our genetic makeup.
What?
It can alter our DNA, which is pretty crazy.
That's insane.
It's like your body almost just starts imploding.
Wow.
Kind of scary.
Oh, wow.
So, let's talk about these symptoms of specifically heat stroke.
There's more?
I know. Warm but dry skin. Usually your sweating has that process is already tried and failed. You're not probably sweating, although it can occasionally happen. Usually it's hot, dry skin. Very high fever, over 104, and sometimes much higher than that. And again, in a really short amount of time can rise to that, 10, 15 minutes. A rapid heart rate, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, headache, fatigue, confusion, agitation, lethargy, stupor,
Oh, Lord.
unconsciousness, seizures are common, coma, and death are possible.
I hate that.
I would say that with heat stroke, from what I was reading, it's not a great outcome for a lot of folks. Although, I've read that some folks can live with permanent damage from heat stroke for a long time. Most people that go through heat stroke that is that damaging to their body just don't survive.
How long is the onset from the first symptoms? Do you know?
I don't know.
It sounds it's fast.
I did read though it can be very fast. And sometimes you might be having these precursors like the heat cramps and what's kind of described more as heat exhaustion. But sometimes you don't. And sometimes you can kind of just go from being lethargic to having a heat stroke pretty quickly. So it's not always a very clear-cut, observable change. So something to be careful about and watch out for each other. Again, it's kind of reminds me of when we talked about hypothermia, because it's like, well, this can happen to you and you might not even know what's going on because you're going to be so out of it.
Because your brain's affected.
Right. You know, and so we can kind of probably have an idea, like, it's really hot outside and, you know, chances are if it's not so burning hot, you're probably not going to be at too much of a risk for heat stroke. But I will say real quickly too, I didn't write this down, but I read that there's 2 types of heat stroke, and one is like exertional and then one is not.
Okay.
So one would be only in the circumstance of doing like high activity in hot weather, which I think backpacking would probably qualify it as that. And then some folks, especially in vulnerable populations like senior citizens and young children and pregnant women and things like that, sometimes they can just have heat stroke, which is kind of scary, that they don't have to be like out exercising. They can just be in hot temperatures and their body just isn't regulating the way that it normally, a healthy, normal, not pregnant, not elderly body might, you know. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe a little bit harder to predict in a way, or to control.
So keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out on each other.
So generally the treatment plan, if you're on trail and you think someone is having a heat stroke, or if you think you are having a heat stroke, again, move to a cool place and rest. You need to call 911. Heat stroke is life-threatening, and it needs to be seen by a doctor. Doggies making sounds. Once again, remove the excess clothing and drench skin with cool water or ice. Probably not going to have ice on trail, but...
If you have figured out a way to have ice on trail, please let us know.
Also, fanning the skin, and I want to talk about that more in just a second. Place ice bags or cool bags on the head, armpit, groin areas, and offer cool fluids if alert and able to drink. But honestly, you need to go to the doctor if you're having any of these. Even back it up to the less severe heat exhaustion. You probably need to go to the doctor if you're having some of this stuff going on. I did also want to say, I try to do some reading about how hospitals treat heat stroke once you get there, and it's honestly pretty similar to how you might be able to treat it at home. Not saying you should treat it at home, because you shouldn't, but maybe this is just some helpful info on how to treat just being overheated in general. So they really stress the importance of the evaporation process in cooling our bodies off, and that includes coming off of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. So often in the hospitals, they will pack their armpits and their necks and whatnot with ice packs and mist them with water, but they keep fans flowing on them constantly. And sometimes they'll even like hang their arms and legs up and to like keep air constantly moving on their skin, which I guess, you know, it's super fascinating, but that evaporation process just cools us off so much better than any other
isn't that
process
great?
of
Like
our body.
Our own body system is better than any like synthetic thing they could come up with.
Right. I don't know if I'm verbalizing this well, but I think it's so interesting that this evaporation process works better than just dunking in an ice bath.
Right.
You know?
That is cool.
I know. I love that. You know, even if you're just feeling hot, or maybe you're feeling like you could be approaching heat exhaustion, I think a great tip would just be like misting your skin and fanning it. Might even do better than like jumping into something cold, or I don't know.
That's a good idea. I just saw the other day those little cheap like $1 squirty bottles that have the fans on them.
That could be nice sometimes.
Probably not going to carry it on trail, but I'm like, it's cool that's one of those things where it's like they can't improve on it much necessarily because you're getting the mist and the fan, which is, I guess, the best thing for
I know.
you.
It's like, it's the best because it's just imitating what our body naturally does, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But kind of fascinating. That. But they usually, if it's treated in time, it's not always required to have like medical intervention. I mean, that's pretty much the straightforward treatment, is to try to emulate our body system and cool ourselves off in that fashion, which I think is super fascinating. And I also thought it was really interesting how you said, and I think this makes sense, but how wiping the sweat helps you cool off faster, or helps it evaporate more, I guess. Or maybe helps more air reach. I don't know. I have to ponder that, but it's interesting.
It is interesting because I feel like, a lot of hikers and stuff carry bandanas to do that, but I don't know that it's with that in mind. It's just because it feels good. And so it's interesting now to know, like, it doesn't just feel good to wipe your sweat away. It also helps cool.
I know. I honestly wouldn't have guessed that. In a way, I thought maybe, like, the more sweat you had on there, the more you're, like, evaporating and cooling. But I like that it's like, oh, yeah, wipe it off. Might help. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, so let's quickly talk prevention when it comes to heat stroke. And again, it's going to be a lot like heat exhaustion, heat cramps, just more serious. And I guess these tips could help prevent any of these situations from occurring. So, drink plenty of fluids during vigorous or outdoor activities, including sunbathing, including backpacking, especially on hot days. And of course, we like water, but we also like our electrolytes, as they can help us to avoid that dehydration. Dressing in light-colored, lightweight, tightly woven, loose-fitting clothing on hot days can also help you stay cool. Scheduling vigorous activities and sports and hikes for cooler times of the day, and taking rest periods in shady or cool areas, like in the river. Protect yourself from the sun exposure. Wear hats, sunglasses. You can even use an umbrella. And using sunscreen, if that's your jam. I know it's not everybody's, but...
Does sunscreen hinder sweat and evaporation at all?
I don't know. We should do an episode on sunscreen.
I just wonder because it always makes my pores feel so clogged. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it would actually hinder that. I'm just curious now.
Well, and then some sunscreens are like the chemical, and some are mineral, and if they would be different.
Right.
It's interesting. But I do know that nobody ever really wants to deal with the sunburn.
Right, especially since it sounds like it makes you even more susceptible to dehydration and then heat illness. Right,
all of these things. And not to mention, like, backpacking with a sunburn sounds terrible. Terrible. I wouldn't even want to.
Breeding an entire potted aloe vera plant.
Some other prevention tips include to increase your time spent outdoors gradually to get your body used to the heat, and it is possible to acclimate this way. Might take some time, but probably worthwhile if you're going on a hot weather backpacking trip and you're not really been outside much. Yeah. Taking frequent drink breaks and, spraying yourself or misting yourself down with water can help you avoid becoming overheated. On very hot and humid days, you might just want to stay inside.
Okay, I was going to say, I feel like that's going to be my prevention. Don't go.
When it's really hot and humid, I like hot weather, but on those, true dog days of summer like that, I don't know.
I like to be near a body of water on those days.
I'm kind of lazy on those days in general, so I don't know if I'm, ready to go out and do some vigorous hiking. Anyway, generally, I won't say I haven't done it because I have, but anyway, it can also be helpful to warm up and cool down before and after exercising or backpacking. Some nice stretching. And of course, if you have any kind of medical condition or you're taking medications, always talk to your doctor about how heat could possibly interfere or affect your conditions. And also, if you're interested in some vigorous summer backpacking and you might have some sort of medical thing going on, you might just talk to your doctor about it. In general, is probably a good idea. I don't personally have a doctor, but...
Same. Talk to your doctor. I haven't gone to the doctor in 15 years.
It's like, will you ask him for me, please?
Yeah. That's the info trickle down medical care. Shit. I was going to ask you, is there any truth to the, applying the coolness to your pressure points, or is that one of those kind of...
I think so. I don't know, I guess, specifically pressure points, but I did read a lot about how they target certain areas of their body to cool off, so I think it would make sense that it would include pressure points as well.
Because I always heard, the wrists or the neck, or maybe, is it, your elbow crease? Is that what that's called? What is that?
I think it's called an elbow crease.
Okay.
Is there another word?
That sounds so weird suddenly.
It kind of does. I also quickly wanted to touch on something called heat syncope, which is not, fortunately, a serious condition or occasion. Basically, what it is kind of feeling faint or actually fainting in hot weather. People who stand for long periods or may suddenly get up from a sitting or lying position when out in the heat may experience this type of sudden dizziness and faint. The fainting is caused by a lack of adequate blood supply to the brain. So dehydration can factor into that. Also, a lack of acclimatization to the hot environments can also increase susceptibility to fainting. But usually people that do deal with heat syncope normally recover consciousness rapidly after they faint and are usually fine. Hopefully they don't hit their heads on the way down.
I think that happened to one of my brothers one time.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you remember, but I don't know if you listeners remember us talking about it. But last year when we were on Tom Sock, my mom had a medical episode when she was at a festival. And it was really, really hot that weekend. It was hotter than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that is what they diagnosed her with. Also, is syncope, which was a relief, you know. It was kind of scary at the time. And that's really kind of why I wanted to touch on it, too, is because I recently been through that with my mom. And I also know how to say syncope.
I love that word. I just love it.
So I was like, I'm doing it. Something else that I think I'd like to talk about in a future episode, which is just like problems with your skin on trail, but something that can come up for folks is heat rash. Oh, yeah. Heat rash is a skin irritation caused by excessive sweating and clogged pores during hot, humid weather, like right now. General symptoms, let's see. It kind of looks like a red cluster of pimples or small blisters on your body, and it can cover large areas of your body. Ooh.
Gross.
Often occurs on the neck, chest, groin, under the boobs, or in elbow creases.
Oh.
I knew I'd seen that word or like had used that phrase elbow crease recently.
Also, groin is a weird word.
Yeah, it is.
Groin.
You know, it took me a long time growing up, like, to even figure out what the groin was.
What is a groin?
Like, what area is that exactly? Are we talking about the bits? Are we talking about the surrounding areas?
That
anyway.
Reminds me of one time at work, for some reason, we were all bored, and we all got on, like, trying to figure out what all exactly is included in a torso.
Oh, God.
I don't know why.
Well, these are the hard-hitting questions that somebody needs to answer.
Like Googling, what is a
fascinating.
torso?
What did you Okay, so is the groin included in the torso? What is a groin?
I think so.
No.
Wait, I have that anatomy book. Where to go?
So, okay, is the groin where the leg meets the butt?
That's kind of what I...
Okay.
Like this groinal area.
Right, like...
These creases.
I wish you guys could see us pointing at our crotches right now.
More creases.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, it was like, it seemed to be like private part related, but yet not. So I was kind of confused. And to be fair, no one's really ever cleared it up for me. And I just made my own assumptions about what the groin is.
So like they exist on that area, but maybe it's not them.
It doesn't include the bits, the jewels,
They
right?
just happen to be there.
Yeah. Because you always hear, like, groin injuries of them. As a kid, I was like, whoa.
I think of it more of, like, this area where it's like, oh, there's organs in there that can be injured.
And muscle. There's a lot of muscles going on around, you know, the hips and the
I
things.
hear about people pulling groin muscles.
Okay, so I'll finish on heat rash. I just say that it can be uncomfortable. It can disrupt sleep, work, play, hike, all those things. And it can also be complicated by infections.
Yay!
Yeah. Do you feel like you've ever had, like, specifically heat rash?
Probably. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have.
I'm not sure I've ever had it backpacking. Well, I've had some rash, but I don't know, pretty similar to heat rash probably, but...
I don't know that I've had it just, like, erupt on my skin. I mean, I'm trying to think... Backpacking, I don't think I had. I've only had it as a result of maybe, like, friction and being too sweaty and stuff, but...
I could see it coming up, though, backpacking in hot weather.
I think I maybe have had it on my arms.
Yeah. When we went to Tomstock last year and it was so hot, it's hard to recall all of the rashing that I had on my body, but some of that might have counted as some heat rash. I'm not sure.
There was just so much that was uncomfortable on that trip.
It's hard to know. Was it all the brush, all the gnats, all the briars? I don't know, but my skin was not happy.
Ugh. Mine either. That was terrible. I was just laying in my tent like a little baby, all powdered up, just like trying to air out.
That was, I think the first, well, for me, and I don't remember you dealing with a whole lot before, was having like some, what's it called?
Chafing.
Chafing. That's what it's called.
That was my first experience, and it was terrible.
It was pretty terrible, and mine wasn't even that bad, but it was like, whoa. I heard about this shit and hearing it.
I know. I'm glad that trip was as short as it was, because I do feel like if I'd had to go like 1 or 2 more days, it really would have escalated.
Dude, I don't know if we made it.
It was a rough one.
That trip, doing this research, came up for a lot of reasons. Thinking back about that hot trip last. Well, it was the fall, but it felt like middle of summer.
Well, that's why to me it's almost like I'd rather just not even plan trips during weather like that. It's like there's so much you have to do to try to mitigate dealing with any of this stuff.
It's true, but to be fair, it was September, so it's not like we were like planning the July, thing. Like it turned out hotter than we could have probably anticipated, but I'm not looking to recreate.
Lord.
So I guess my takeaway talking about dealing with heat-related injuries is just to remember to stay hydrated and all the things Katy talked to you about and what we need and maybe don't need in our water. Also, I just love how important evaporation is to our cooling system. I mean, I knew that, but I didn't really know how important it is, so I just love that.
Same.
So I'm going to just maybe think about cooling off a little differently now.
Make up some sort of little song about evaporation.
I kind of love that idea. Also, and again, I think this is almost a take-home message from almost all of our episodes, but it reminds me a lot of, again, like I said, the hypothermia episode, but just to watch out for each other. And it's not always super obvious what's going on, even to the person that it's happening to. So if you are in groups, or even if you're not in groups, if you're out in hot weather, just maybe keep an eye on others if you get the opportunity to do so. And hopefully they're keeping a little eye on you too.
And if you come across someone naked on trail with like wet handkerchiefs on them, just, don't judge. They're probably trying to treat a heat illness.
Maybe you could offer to help.
Do you need some water?
So that about sums up my heat illness. I at first Googled sun injury or heat injury, and both of those are like NBA teams.
What?
So like the Miami Heat, and then is it the Dallas Suns maybe or something? I don't know. So I was like getting all these articles pop up about like over the years of like injured basketball players. Like, I think I need to rephrase this.
That's hilarious. That'd be hilarious if you just had a section on that. Like, these are all of their injuries.
I should have. Like, this is their disabled list at the moment. Then you guys would have turned it off and never turned it back on if you haven't already.
They're like, they've really gone off the rails now.
I think I'm getting unhinged, so I should probably stop talking soon.
I love it. I loved this. This was exciting.
I think it was good. I hope you guys liked it and learned some things, and I hope that you're listening from somewhere cool with a cool hydrating beverage in your hand, because it's hot.
Hot. So hot. Spicy hot.
Spicy hot. All right.
Yes, and please come back for hydration. Oh my goodness, there's so much.
I'm excited.
So much. I'm excited for that conversation. There's a lot of, I think what comes up a lot when we do these topics is just like how much conflicting information there can be. So I'm really excited to talk about it and just sort of compare maybe different sources and sort of try to find maybe the most solid information.
I thought that would be fun too if we kind of have a conversation and compare and contrast a little bit and see what we can figure out by the end of it.
So yes, you have that to look forward to.
Yeah, so we really hope you guys will come back and listen. I think it'll be a good one. But in the meantime, stay cool, kids.
I'm rubbing my hands together. Take care of yourselves.
Sweet anticipation. Bye.
Bye. Sweet. We're also already going to notice some cognitive deficits. Oh my gosh. Deficits?
Wow. What are you saying, Dan?
I'm chugging.
It's fine. Take a drink.
Yeah, I literally put that in my notes. That's ridiculous. Wow. Wow.